Today we're diving straight into temporary staffing in the workforce now and in the future.
There's there's a number of types of misinterpretations and sometimes misunderstandings about temp labor and who we are and what we do. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that our personal passions at Tidewater lie in, like our motto says, putting people to work and doing the right thing every day. I mean, absolutely pulls on your heartstrings some of the places that people have come from and where they are now.
This is the best part about being here at the Virginia Ship Repair Association and the foundation, having that ability to impact people's lives. Welcome back to Ship Repair Radio. Today we're diving straight into temporary staffing in the workforce now and in the future. Joining us today on Ship Repair Radio to unpack this is Jay Prock. Jay is president of Tidewater Staffing and Stata Technologies and a dedicated, long-serving board member of the Virginia Ship Repair Foundation. Jay operates right on the front lines of Hampton Roads' maritime workforce, supplying skilled labor for crucial Navy assets. He's also a vocal advocate for upskilling tradespeople, training frontline supervisors, and investing in the next generation through the Virginia Ship Repair Foundation Scholarship. Jay, welcome to the show.
So happy to be here, John. I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity.
Hey, Jay, thanks. I've alluded in other episodes that there's been a rise in temporary staffing companies, and sometimes I think listeners have read into that where I think the staffing agencies are bad, some other adjective, and that's to me it's farthest from the truth. I was surprised only because I didn't fully realize the workload up and down and the declining workload. And to me, it's a normal byproduct when the facilitized yards and other ship repairs have these massive swings in workload. And so Jay, can you give the listeners a once over about the things you do for people, keep them employed, get them employed? I've been to your facility. You have mock-ups of ships, and you've done so because you don't want the first time somebody's standing a fire watch that says you got to go down in that tank and be on the other side of the bulkhead and be a fire watch, for them to go, okay, I'm out. Well, everybody loses, right? The work doesn't get done. That person doesn't stay employed. You've also done things, I think, like giving everybody the right PPE, right? So there's a lot there. Can you unpack what service you provide for the maritime workforce?
Well, I'm happy to, and I'll do the best I can. I'm gonna move a little bit fast because you're trying to unpack 20 plus years of experience in 20 minutes. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that our personal passions at Tidewater lie in, like our motto says, putting people to work and doing the right thing every day.
Putting people to work and doing the right thing every day.
100%. Sometimes that means giving them the appropriate training. Sometimes it means buying more than just what checks the box for a hard hat. I've done presentations, just as a really specific example, at a couple of different venues and opportunities I've been given to talk just specifically about the types of helmets versus hard hats that we use for our employees on the waterfront these days. You go into any other major shipyard, shipbuilding facility across the world, everybody's got clip-on helmets. Rather than waiting on OSHA or somebody else to tell us what the right thing to do is, at Tidewater, we put all of our employees in the better than just enough hard hats and helmets. That ethos is what built what we call the Tidewater Employment Simulation Center. And that's where our mock-up facility is. And that's where we do all of our OSHA Maritime 10-hour training. And it's where we build a couple of specific courses to take people from entry level to be better than just good enough to walk on the boat. We give them skill sets in painting. We give them skill sets in power tooling. And we do everything we can to make sure that our product, which is our people, are taken care of and trained to the best of our ability, not only for customers, but also so that we can continue the path forward for these individuals within the industry so that we keep talent here
Mhm.
rather than it being during a lull time sent off for somewhere else. Tidewater Staffing is a geographic.
I think that's an important point, right? And so people don't. I think maybe people don't understand that there is the workload goes up and down. We and somebody who's been who is in the maritime workforce today, when that lull comes, they're at your staffing agency. So instead of them going off to say um, construction, building a highway or a house or
Don't do
something,
that. Once your contract on the EWO finishes, I'm gonna keep you
right?
working, and your
And
benefits stay the same.
I'm going to keep you in the maritime.
That's right. Let's go work on the baton. Let's go down and take care of that
Yeah.
Ford.
Yeah.
You know, we've got other opportunities that because the staffing agencies work with all of
So you're doing a service not only for the Navy, you're doing a service for that individual.
That's right. Yes, sir. And what carries with that individual when they stay with Tidewater Staffing is all the benefits package that we provide. And there's a big misnomer that made us pretty industry wide. Not every single provider gives the suite of benefits that we do. But for the most part, most staffing agencies give health, dental, vision, PTO, all of which are things
Right.
that Tidewater provides. If they go from one contractor to another, simply because the project on the EWO ended and the one on baton is starting, and they don't have a consistent employer, they either lose, change, or need to
Lose
shift these
change, right?
benefits.
That's a lot of perturbations and all the benefits if they have a family, right? If they have maybe a spouse, a child, that's a lot of perturbation and benefits that could get dropped.
Big time. There's kind of a there's a number of types of misinterpretations and sometimes misunderstandings about temp labor and who we are and what we do. One of my favorite stories about that that we still um, that I personally keep in mind frequently is there was a um, big player in the industry back in the day when Dad was getting started. He told Dad in the 5 minutes that Dad had the opportunity to even talk to this guy,
Mhm.
asked for some
So
business
wait,
advice.
for our listeners, like your dad started the staffing company,
Yes, sir. Sorry.
right?
So 92, Dad started it.
792, and you've taken over. You took over for him when
My sister and I bought it from him in 2018.
2018.
So it's
So family owned, family operated, and been doing this.
consistency in
I
life.
think you just said about 20 some odd years.
Yep. We're approaching 35 here in 2027
Yeah, yeah.
of the total family business. And a lot of our mentality and taking care of people and these things come from the fact that we are closely held, closely knit. Geographically, we only operate in the Port of Virginia.
Mhm.
So it's not just important to us from a fiscal perspective, but we feel like we owe to our community and to the Port of Virginia. We want to be the best place for the Navy to choose to do the repair work. The more vessels that come, the more people that we can get in, the more people we can put to work, the better for everybody. But one of the misnomers that carried for a long, long time is kind of how the grunt work, the tough work, the stuff that traditional contractors didn't want to take, they just shoved down the pipeline to the labor providers. The guy told Dad in the 5 minutes that Dad ever got with him, said, all you temp agencies are the same. Every so often, you just got to change your skin, shed your skin like a snake or a reptile. And what he meant by that was once you had enough injuries, once you had enough of a tainted uh, 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 um, reputation,
Yeah,
change your name, change your name, go do it again.
yeah.
I'd start that workers. Tidewater Staffing has never once shed our skin. And what we do for our people and for our customers is a niche and an important one that helps stitch each of those different contracts on the waterfront that we can be a part of together so that our
Yeah.
workforce.
So let me talk about that. When I had occasion to talk to CNO Caudle about um, some of the dynamics, and I talked about the number of temporary staffing or staffing agencies that
I think the latest count was 22 in the VSRA.
okay, right. So I said it was a lot. I didn't have that. I didn't have that number. I said it was well more than a dozen.
I feel
Uh,
like every luncheon I get a new competitor.
you're getting a competitor, right? But he said something like, "I hate the way we contract for ship repair." And I think what he really meant by that was he inherently knew that the labor is in these staffing agencies because of the contracting methodology. I think I think if you just spend a couple of minutes talking about I'm a skilled trader, just pick a trade. I'm a ship fitter, I'm a pipe fitter, I'm a something, and I'm in a staffing agency. How, how, do you provide incumbent worker training? How do you upskill them? There's all the NAVC standards. How does somebody who's in a staffing agency as a skilled tradesman, how do they stay current and get better?
Skilled tradesmen are a little bit of a special breed.
Uh-huh.
And typically, they're not always looking for their own upskilling. Most times when we find a skilled tradesman, they know where they're going, they know what they're doing, they want to go do it. Most of our upskilling actually happens with the entry level.
Well, the entry levels.
And really, that's where we found the most opportunity, not just for Tidewater, but also in an industry as a whole. The Hampton Roads workforce dollars, the dollars that we spend for the VSRA scholarships, these sorts of things had the most and most disparate impact on those with the lowest skill sets. The skilled trades guys look to us for the consistency.
The consistency of the benefits of the work.
Yep. They
As long as they're working and they're applying their skills, right? They're staying current.
Yep. And the way that a lot of these things work, even from a contractual method, there are job on the job time requirements. So like they define a first, second, or third class
But number
fitter,
of years.
exactly. So the longer we can keep them in the industry, the more valuable they get anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what they are working for, they want to work for that.
So you
paycheck,
provide the stability.
That's right. Yes, sir. 100%.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. All right, Jay. I'm gonna pivot here and talk about the future. Right. So there's a lot of people talking about why don't we bundle ship repair contracts? Why aren't they? Yard A gets these 5 DDGs and you do all the maintenance for the next 5 years there. Yard B gets these 3 DDGs and you get all the maintenance, right? And try to build some stability and predictability in the workload. Let's say that happens. Let's say Nirvana happens and the workload chart doesn't look like there's peaks and valleys and it's smoothed out. What does that do for staffing agencies?
Talking about a business.
You think?
No. Here's the neat thing.
And I was taking you serious there for a moment.
No, what's super fun about that is that consistent workload is great for the port overall. We'll see consistent hours across the port. But what that doesn't show is the differentials between each project. So, for example, when the vessel comes in, we got to clean the tanks. We got to get rid of the fuel and the bilges and clean out that's where the whole project starts, right? Well, just because one project starts with the tanks doesn't mean all the projects are going to start with the tanks at the same time. You have some tank work going on over here. You're going to have some coatings work going on over here. You're going to have some hot work going on over here. Even if the total port load is even, you'll still have disparities in project by project and contract by contract.
Yeah.
And that's where
Not everybody has every ounce of labor that they need.
100%.
Yeah. Again, because there's unintended consequences. Again, it used to be a little bit more, I guess 10 years ago or more, you had some bundling. You had some people that had long-term contracts, right? Now you undid that and you have more labor in the staffing agencies. I'm looking to make sure that in this conversation that we're not overlooking a consequence by changing the acquisition strategy to something that might be more predictable, right? And so I think you're telling me you're all in.
I'm all in 100%. And what's neat too is I think there are multiple examples of other niches within staffing or other industries that use staffing in a big way, just as another vertical that we service. For example,
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. So we've been talking maritime, but you staff other areas?
we got logistics and manufacturing. So 3PLs that are moving freight through the Port of Virginia or any more sort of manufacturing facilities that are looking for extra talent. Now, each of them have their own kind of ebbs and flows. They'll have their consistent base level, but for example, there are freight moving facilities that have seasons where they need a ton of Christmas goods to push through, right?
Yeah. When does that start? Does that start soon?
Now. Yeah, we're getting our first orders for Halloween freight and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Even manufacturers that are in the area experience ups and downs when it comes to their workload. In addition to cyclical nature of any and most all businesses, you've also got the ability to source, find, and deploy new talent into the
Yeah.
organization. So there are many organizations that use temp labor or contingent labor as a way to find, source, and test talent, kind of test before you buy, kind of.
Yeah.
And in those fields, Tidewater does especially well because one of the things that we do that I know very few, if anybody, I've never heard of anybody in the Port of Virginia do it, is we don't charge any hiring fees. So when we have this talent that we've spent all this time, money, and effort and everything training, and they're out there doing well for our customers call us and say, hey, look, we really like Sally, Jack, and Joe. We'd like to hire them on. We say, well, congratulations. Happy day for you.
Yeah.
Happy day for the
It's the right thing to do for the people.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, let's never forget. I had a much earlier episode at Jordan Webb from Colada on, and he said something like, "Hey, let's not forget. These aren't just bar graphs. These aren't just charts about workload. There's people's livelihoods, right? And I think that's part of your mantra of doing the right thing,
Every
right?
day.
We're doing it every day. So next question or next topic, Jay. You've been on the Virginia Ship Repair Foundation board, right? I have two hats. I have the association, which is the advocacy piece for the members, but then we also have a foundation. You had a chance to do something, I think, absolutely incredible. To stand up and figure out that we had the resources in the foundation to create a scholarship fund, and you were on the ground floor of that. You helped think through that. Tell listeners about how that came to be, why we did it, and what is it going to do for people that want to get into the Maritime.
Well, I think the first part of that story is about 7 years ago. I was voluntold. Well, I told the crow that I needed to be on.
God bless them.
Yeah, the Virginia Ship Repair Foundation board. And I tell you, it's been one of those kind of unexpected, really, really great experiences that I just, I'm super appreciative for. Makes me think of Bill every time I step into the facility. What we were able to do is we were able to identify that we had some assets sitting on the sideline that weren't going used. And we put our heads together. Stanko, Christopher from Bigger,
Yep.
Allie Bromley, Greg Crewer, and we all identified that if we shaped this program and positioned the assets in a way that would continue to grow and develop the endowment fund, we could really shape and pull in and upskill more talent.
Right.
And we could do it without any government or any organization or anybody else telling us how or where or what.
Because it's the right thing to do.
That's right. Keep them in here, keep them working. And if you're in ship repair and you want to get better at ship repair, well, I'll be darned, we're here for you. And so this past year, we gave away $24,000 in 6 separate $4,000 scholarships to individuals that range from entry-level fire watch all the way up to engineers and everything in between. One of the things at Tidewater that we hire for, that these concepts really resonate with me is that we hire people with really high emotional quotients. We put these metrics on the board that talk about a couple of different things. There's really 3 things that we track, but one of them is the number of people that we have working. And why that's important, why that's relative to what we have going on is that what that represents to each of our staff employees
Opportunities.
is that every person you've placed,
Yeah.
you've impacted a family,
Yep.
you've helped the community, you've
Yep.
upskilled
Yeah,
somebody,
absolutely.
right? And so bring that full circle. I get to do it now in a larger, better, more dynamic way that serves industry as a whole, plus get to still do what I do in a little corner of Tidewater.
So So it's called the Bill Crow Memorial Endowment Fund,
Correct.
right? And we're handing out these scholarships in the name of the Foundation Volunteer of the Year. So last year, Volunteer of the Year
Victor
was
Figueroa.
Victor Figueroa. So
Love
he
that
got
name.
to hand out the first set of scholarships, right? So next year, there'll be a new Foundation Volunteer of the Year, and we handed out six, right? Six
Six
scholarships,
scholarships.
$4,000
Yes,
scholarships.
sir.
Not all for white collar, but we handed out a bunch of scholarships for blue collar. If somebody's listening and they have a son, daughter, nephew, somebody, tell them a little bit about the criteria of the scholarship. I mean, it's essentially just filling out an application and telling us what are you going to do. But I'll let
Exactly.
I'll let you describe it.
We are 100% encouraging nothing other than the people who have interest in either entering or staying in servicing the Port of Virginia and the Marine Industrial Base. So one of our scholarships was for a young lady who wanted to go from fire watch to welder.
Yes.
Prime
Yep.
example.
Probably great example.
And we've got such a good infrastructure.
So now she's got cash to be able to go pay for that training.
That's right. Yes, sir. And
So just think about that. I came into the industry. I was doing a fire watch. I needed skill and a job, but she realized
not a really exciting.
not a really exciting job. I'm 100% with you. When she realized I kind of like the environment, and now she applied for a scholarship, and now she's going to go through welding training. And I wish her the best. I hope she becomes the world's best welder, and I hope she looks back and says, "Wow, Virginia Ship Repair Foundation enabled my family to do X."
Yep. The other end of the spectrum.
And that's an amazing story.
And they're all over the place. We are so full of those kinds of stories here in the Port of Virginia. It is jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
And being on the front lines like we are at Tidewater, I get to witness some of those things that are, jaw-dropping, tear-jerking. Absolutely pulls on your heartstrings. Some of the places that people have come from and where they are now.
This is the best part about being here at the Virginia Ship Repair Association and the foundation, having that ability to impact people's lives.
I can tell you, I know of one person who has had a successful business exit after having started as a laborer nearly 20 years ago that worked for Tidewater. I can tell you of another one who owns
That's
a
amazing.
large shipyard currently and started at Tidewater. And the examples just go on and on and on.
So let's do this. Let me give you the last word about staffing agencies, because I think if you can infer from the conversation, there's a significant role for the staffing agencies, and it's really about putting people to work. But I won't end the conversation. I'm going to let you end, Jay. You end the conversation about tell our listeners, whether it's a Navy official, a mom, dad listening and saying to their child or spouse or somebody, hey, Maritime is the place to work. A congressional leader, however you want to frame who you're talking to in the last word. Over to you. Tell us about staffing. What do you want people to walk away with?
I want people to know that staffing agencies, Tidewater or otherwise, are great entry positions for the market. And I want people to visualize and think about somebody like that young lady that got the scholarship, or any number of people who have gone through the gates at any local yard. And once they step in and realize that they're in a special place and they have a special skill, there are so many plays, so many directions, so many ways that they can go to better themselves that it's the possibilities are endless. You can start with an agency, whether you're highly skilled or just learning. You can get into this industry and get support from people from Hampton Roads Workforce Council to the contractors to if you want to make a good career, be in
Yeah,
the
you have an avenue.
we have an avenue.
Yeah, I mean,
We as in Tidewater, we
we
as an industry,
we as
which I
industry.
think it's a super important point to make, that the industry as a whole uses staffing as a tool that helps the industry accomplish the task at hand. Whether the Navy decides to change their methodology of contractual deployments or however that works, we're going to be here to support and make sure that the Port of Virginia is the place for the Navy to bring their boats.
Yeah. So Jay, yeah, huge thanks for you for joining us today and sharing an inside look at how we build and sustain the workforce uh, behind our fleet. I mean, Jay, your discussion here today and your well, I guess I'll say mantra of putting people to work and doing the right thing every day. I hope our listeners walk away with that conversation and realizing that that the roles of the staffing agencies are really about putting people to work and giving them the opportunities. Um, Jay, I just thank you for being here today. Fascinating, investing in people, all of the things you're doing for training and upskilling, but really it's about providing an opportunity for people to work. If you have any questions from this episode, please email radio@virginiashiprepair.org. Again, if you have questions or want to be part of the conversation, that's radio@virginiashiprepair.org. Thank you for tuning in and keep supporting the Maritime Industrial Base, and we'll see you on the next episode. Jay, thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot, John. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.